What's up guys, it's Hansol here, and in this video I'll be covering how the comp Fireplay works in the 3v3 arena bracket. So this comp is fairly unusual. It consists of Fire Mage, Shadow Priest, and Resto Druid. This comp is otherwise known as Shatterplay, but since it's a Fire Mage instead of a Frost Mage, the name is swapped from Shatterplay to Fireplay. Like I said, it's a very unusual comp and it's rare that you'll ever actually run into this, but if you're interested in trying this comp, this video will teach you the ins and outs of the comp and also the strengths and weaknesses it brings to the table. So let's dive right into it. So a general overview and guideline of how this comp works is that it's all about setup. And I know as Fire Mages it may seem like you need to spread dots and melt things like Affliction Locks, but no, it's all about setting up your deep freezes every 30 seconds and then cross-CCing the enemy healer unless you're swapping to them, and then forcing defensive cooldowns one by one, and then eventually you'll drain all their cooldowns and score the kill. So some of the strengths you have with this comp is that you have a handful of disposable CCs that you can throw out, so it's up to you and your partners to distribute them successfully at the right times to score kills. The CCs you have are Dragon's Breath, Polymorph and Hibernate, 3 stuns, 2 silences including a lockout, Fear, Disarm / Horrify, and also Cyclone. So right there you already have so much CC to work with, so once you start building that coordination and synergy with your partners, you can literally keep a healer out of the game forever. Also, the burst for this comp is extremely deadly when set up correctly. Also, the peels with Dragon's Breath from the Fire Mage makes it more unique as opposed to playing with the Frost Mage. Also, there's very little to no fire plays on the ladder, so you can be more unpredictable with your setups and catch enemies off guard. Some of the weaknesses of this comp is that the consistent damage is very low, so outside of our deep freezes and pure setups, it is very rare that you'll actually score kills without that actual setup. Also, another bad thing is that it can be very challenging to set up everything perfectly and leaves no room for mistakes or error. So for example, if you get CC'd on your burst or you get your deep freeze reflected because really good warriors will see it coming, it will completely shut down any potential you have to burst and it will just leave you in the dust. So when it comes to specific roles in your team, when playing offensive, the Fire Mage is a very important aspect of the team. And obviously when it comes to arenas, every team is equally valuable. But when it comes to playing offensive, it's very important that the Fire Mage knows how to play and set up his burst correctly, because you're pretty much a shot caller. You're the one that makes shit happen, and without your burst and your setups, your team will go nowhere. So what you need to do is you need to find the window of opportunity and take it when it presents itself. This has multiple different factors, including having your procs ready, positioning, cooldowns from both teams and stuff like that. So it's up to you as a Fire Mage to lead your team into the offensive push, and they will follow with you and help you follow up cross CC and help you score the kill. But you need to be very vocal in this aspect, and also try to let your partners know ahead of time when you're going to push so they can start positioning themselves for cross CC.
Yeah, I have for no reason, dude. Can we get pressure happening? I have so much damage.
Yeah.
I've been holding all
well,
game.
we need cross CC, dude, and I don't have anything.
Don't fear sounds. No, just go ham right now.
Nice. I love fighting them, DB. Big damage. So much fucking damage.
Oh shit!
I did so much damage there, dude. So when queuing arenas, you'll always fall into 3 different phases in every game. The first one is the neutral phase, and this is when you're just going to be generating hot streak procs, dotting things up, and also peeling when needed. This is mostly the time of the fight when you want to start positioning yourself to go offensive when needed. But conversely, you also want to be prepared to go defensive if needed in this neutral phase. The next phase is the defensive phase, and this happens mostly when the enemy team pops their offensive cooldowns, which forces you to go on the down low. And what you want to do here is just get some juicy Dragon's Breaths and spam polymorphs on the enemy DPS so your team can avoid popping their defensive cooldowns, because the longer you can hold your defensive cooldowns, the longer you will survive. The last phase is the offensive phase, and this is when you go for your deep freeze setups with cross CC on enemy healers to force enemy defenses or to score the kill. And this is probably the hardest phase as a Fire Mage because it leaves no room for mistakes, and also your partners have to cooperate and assist you in landing that cross CC to get a clean execute. So now I'm going to commentate over one of the games I had, and show you how it should look when you can smoothly transition through all the phases and then take advantage of the burst opportunities. So the gates are going to open, and right away the game's going to start in neutral phase, because you're not going to have that much damage going, and so is the enemy team, unless you're facing a comp like RMP, which will force you on the defensive right at the beginning of the game. But in this case, the gate's going to open, and I'm just going to try to ramp up my hot streak so I can go offensive as soon as possible. So right here, I'm going to actually get my instant hot streak, which means I can go offensive and go for that defreeze, but my priest does get cloned, so I'm going to wait it out a little bit. The mage counterspells me and deep polys my druid, and I can't stop that poly because I am silenced. My priest gets a horrified disarm on the druid until full fear, so I'm going to double Dragon's Breath the DPS and deep freeze this warrior to do a bunch of damage into him. He is going to trinket it to avoid from dying, but since we did force a trinket on the enemy team, that is still a successful offensive push. As long as we're able to force any little cooldown on the enemy team, that is one step closer to winning the game. And at this point, the warrior's HP is very low, so I'm actually going to go for a pawn sheep on the druid to maybe force a trinket, which he does instantly trinket. And like I said earlier, our offensive damage or consistent damage is very weak, but if the enemy target is low, then it's still worth it. And right here, since the warrior's recklessness is up, I'm going to pull back, and now we're going to go to the defensive phase. Since we were able to force all trinkets from the enemy team, it is fine to just pull back and wait for our next deep freeze and just try to survive. And he does not force my block, which is looking really good for us. My druid gets polyed right here, but I do have my hot streak coming up here and my deep freeze, so we want to try to go ham right now. So I'm going to Dragon's Breath the druid, and my priest is going to fear off of it. And then I'm going to be able to defreeze this warrior since the druid is feared. Take notice that we always try to get cross CC on the healer before we go offensive. And right here the warrior has no trinket either, so he's going to take so much damage. I'm then going to counterspell the druid out of that fear. My druid tries to cyclone him, but he does shadow meld it. And from this offensive push, we were able to force the shield wall. So now we force all trinkets and a shield wall, which means next deep we should win if we can play correctly. And now I'm back to the neutral phase of trying to survive and generate hot streaks. As you can see, we're just going on and off from the offensive push to the defensive and back to the offensive and then back to neutral. You can never just stay in one phase for the whole game. You have to just know how to rotate back and forth. And right here, I'm actually going to get a full poly on the druid. Luckily, he does not shift it, so I'm going to defreeze this warrior. And I have a bunch of damage going into him. My priest is actually going to follow up the poly with a fear, which forces the block on the druid. My priest is going to silence the block, and then my druid is going to clone him out of that as well. So we have a bunch of CC chain going. I'm going to combust on the druid, since we still do have a lot of consistent pressure. And then I'm going to palm poly him off of that combust on. And as you can see, our damage right now is fairly weak, but since we're doing so much CCs, he is slowly melting. Our priest is going to go for another horrified disarm fear on the druid, and my defreeze is up again, so I'm just going to defreeze this warrior and end the game. And as you can see, they have no more trinkets, no shield wall, no nothing, so he is going to go down right there. It is good that we won the game right there, because now all the enemy trinkets are coming back up. So it's really all about executing those cooldowns as fast as possible and then scoring the kill before they come back up. Anyways guys, hopefully this video helped you get a better understanding of Fireplay. In the near future, I'll probably do some more advanced guides on this comp so you can fully take advantage of every tool that is presented to you, and then you can blossom into your full potential. So thanks for watching, and keep burning shit.